New York City loses hundreds of billionaires in wealth as residents skip town begging rich people to come back to New York. Let me say this one more time. New York City loses hundreds of billions in wealth as rich residents skip town, while Cuomo is begging rich people to come back to New York. Here's some stats for you. According to a report from New World Wealth and Webster Pacific, the combined wealth in Big Apple fell by $336 billion in the last 12 months, ending June 30th. Let me say that one more time. $336 billion. New York City's total wealth was valued at $2.66 trillion compared with $3 trillion during the same period. Now, a lot of people say, well, people lost money during the pandemic. Billionaires have gotten richer during the pandemic.
Yes.
We know that fact. It's been talked about everywhere. But New York officially got poorer during the same time by $336 billion. That's like saying 336 billionaires left town. That's like saying 3,360 people worth $100 million left town. That's like saying 33,600 people who live in New York who are worth $10 million skip town. That's not a small number. So now, tax collections in New York City dropped 46% in June. Even while revenues generated in other parts of states recovered, that decline follows a 32% drop in May and 23% decline in April. United Van Alliance CEO Mark Rogers told Fox Business that the majority of residents moving out of Manhattan, 61% of them are earning over $100,000. Okay, and now New York is saying even if tourists come to New York, they have to quarantine for 2 weeks. So you watch this, okay? And for myself, I'll give you a situation here. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. We were looking at 4 states on where we're going to go after this to compete in the media market and what the plans were. We're looking at LA, okay? And in January, it's LA. We're going to LA. After Christmas was great. We had a great time with the family. We were looking at a couple nice, an old mentor of mine who had his house in Newport Beach, whom I used to go do speeches with at this Newport Balboa Club. His house was on sale for $65 million. You could have probably gotten it for $35 million. We were looking at some opportunities there, okay? Right. Then we looked at Greenwich. We looked at a couple. My wife grew up with horses. You know, the whole idea about kids being raised around horses. They're not intimidated by, men. So it's good to be around horses. We wanted to get a place in Greenwich, okay? Then we looked at here. Then we looked at Tennessee. Then we looked at Florida, okay? There's no way in the world a creative innovator can go to a place in New York or California and constantly be bullied and stay there long term. You have to realize California has such a great platform to sell on, but they suck when it comes down to taxes. New York has a beautiful platform to sell on. It's competitive, #1 market in the world to compete in. But you're starting to realize, hey, all of this BS about how amazing New York and California are, it's coming at a price now. People are leaving. You know where they're going? Do you know where most people in New York are going?
Florida. Yeah.
No state taxes, good weather, come on down.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to New York, half the people from
Water,
New York, half the people in Florida are from New York.
Yeah.
So, Cuomo, if you and I are talking, I asked you a question earlier. There's a game going on right now, Ray, that we're playing, you and I, okay? Mm-hmm. I asked you earlier. I said, if you had to vote between a Trump or a Biden, who would just say, I really don't know.
Right.
Then I said, if you had Cuomo, then you said you'd go Cuomo, right? Then I asked, if you had the choice between a lifelong politician and a businessman, you said, well, I don't know, but let's just say, okay, finally businessman, right? If Cuomo were to run America like he runs New York, unfortunately, people will not leave New York, they will leave America. If it goes the way
tough.
this is going.
Yeah.
So what do we do with what is the responsibility?
But is he running New York like this because it's New York, or is it because of let's just say if he was somewhere else, if he was Florida, do you think
philosophies chase you no matter where you go? Your philosophies will follow you no matter where you go.
An abusive husband is going to be an abusive husband.
If you're a Christian in Britain, when you leave Britain, if you Christian come to U.S., you're a Christian. If you go to Iran, you're a Christian.
I get that.
So your philosophies follow you.
I get that, but in business, it's a different mindset. Like I'm a Christian wherever I go, but as a businessman, don't you adapt and adjust to where you are?
No way. Your philosophies. Philosophies. Is Trump going to be different if he's in Kansas? Is Trump? You really think Trump's his style of business is going to be more in Kansas? Well, John, I'm so sorry. I don't want to push you too hard.
We're going to build a wall around Kansas.
I know I'm pushing you and cornering you.
But Trump was built in New York business
so
as well, so that's part of it.
Cuomo's
but I'm
Cuomo.
just saying that's part. But I'm saying I guess what I'm trying to say with both of those guys in actuality, would they be different or would they adjust according to where they are? I think they would. I think, from a business standpoint.
I don't know what
but
you're
I'm saying
with that.
Because what they went through New York their whole lives of business, right? So that's where their philosophy was raised, and that's where you got your philosophy from about where you were. Would you not have adjusted if you weren't in New York?
His philosophies are very close to his father's philosophy, Mario, who was the governor of New York, who people were begging him to run for president, and he said he doesn't want to do it. And Chris Cuomo is begging Andrew to want to run for office, and he's saying he's not going to do it. And Andrew is more like his father than Chris is like his father. Nothing against anybody. Chris used to spend more time. And by the way, here's the crazy. You want to know the craziest thing? Here's the craziest thing. When they're together, Chris and Andrew, I love seeing these guys together because all I think about is if one day my sons have a relationship like these two have, I will love that when I'm no longer here. So this doesn't come as a shot to them as a family. They build a legacy as a family. All I'm talking about is instead of bashing billionaires, when Amazon was getting ready to bring 25,000 jobs to New York at an average salary of $150,000, and AOC goes out there and says, they're going to abuse everybody. You know what her argument was? Do you know what AOC's argument was? AOC's argument was, if Amazon brings 25,000 jobs in New York for an average salary of $150,000, you know what she said? She said they're going to increase the rent. What do you mean they're going to increase the rent? A lot of people's salary is going to go from 80 grand to possibly 150 grand.
You want that competition. You want that to come.
The ideology of the politicians in New York is hurting the number one financial capital in the world.
Because they're thinking politics first.
They're thinking politics and taxing the rich.
Yeah.
Biden's going to meetings and just saying, just so you know, my campaign is taxing you. I'm going to raise taxes the moment you elect me. So right now, deals are taking place. You know how many people are trying to get all the deals taking place this year because they're worried that Biden's getting elected and taxes are going to change next year?
Heck yeah.
People are frightened of it.
And they're making moves, too, as you can see, to Texas.
Here's data for you. Here's data for you.
Yeah.
Here's data for you. When Iran was bullying Iranians, you know what type of Iranians left Iran? You know how people say, how many rich Persians have you met? Persians in Iran. You go to L.A. Most Persians are what? How do you guys have so much money?
Yeah,
why do Persians have money? Because the entrepreneurs left Iran. The workers left Iran. I cannot live over here anymore. You cannot bully entrepreneurs who create jobs.